Judith put in. Then Judith said to them, "Listen to me, my friends. Take this head and hang it upon the parapet of your wall. As soon as day breaks and the sun rises on the earth, each of you take up your weapons, and let every able-bodied man go out of the town. Set a captain over them, and as if you were going down to the plain against the Syrians' outpost. Only do not go down. Then they will seize their arms and go into the camp and rouse the officers of the Assyrian army. They will rush into the tent of Holofernes and will not find him. Then panic will come over them, and they will flee before you. Then you and all who live within the borders of Israel will pursue them and cut them down in their tracks. But before you do all this, bring Achor the Ammonite to me, so that he may see and recognize the man who despised the house of Israel, and send him to us as if to his death." So they summoned Achor from the house of Uzziah. When he came and saw the head of Holofernes in the hand of one of the men in the assembly of the people, he fell down on his face in a faint. When they raised him up, he threw himself at Judith's feet, and he did obeisance to her, and said, "Blessed are you in every tent of Judah. Blessed are you in every tent of Judah. In every nation those who hear your name will be alarmed. Now tell me what you have done during these days." So Judith told me in the presence of the people all that she had done from the days she left until the moment she began speaking to them. When she had finished, the people raised a great shout and made a joyful noise in their town. When Achor saw all that the God of Israel had done, he believed firmly in God. So he was circumcised and joined the house of Israel, remaining so to this day. As soon as it was dawn, they hung the head of Holofernes on the wall. Then they all took their weapons, and they went out in companies to the mountain passes. When the Assyrians saw them, they sent word to their commanders, then went to the generals and the captains and to all their other officers. They came to Holofernes' tent and said to the steward in charge of all his personal affairs, "Wake up, our lord, for the slaves have been so bold as to come down against us to give battle, to utter destruction." So Bagoas went in and knocked at the entry of the tent, for he supposed that he was sleeping with Judith. But when no one answered, he opened it and went into the bedchamber and found him sprawled on the floor dead, with his head missing. He cried out with a loud voice and wept and groaned and shouted and tore his clothes. He cried out with a loud voice and wept and groaned and shouted and tore his clothes. Then he went out to the tent where Judith had stayed, and when he did not find her, he rushed out to the people and shouted, "The slaves have tricked us. One Hebrew woman has brought disgrace on the house of King Nebuchadnezzar. Look, Holofernes is lying on the ground, and his head is missing." When the leaders of the Assyrian army heard this, they tore their tunics and were greatly dismayed, and their loud cries and shouts rose up throughout the camp. When the men in the tents heard it, they were amazed at what had happened. Overcome with fear and trembling, they did not wait for one another, but with one impulse all rushed out and fled by every path across the plain and throughout the hill country. Those who had camped in the hills around Bethulia also took to flight. Then the Israelites, everyone that was a soldier, rushed out upon them. Uzziah sent men to Bethmeshtain and Kobah and Kola, and to all the frontiers of Israel, to tell what had taken place, and to urge all to rush out upon the enemy to destroy them. When the Israelites heard it, with one accord they fell upon the enemy and cut them down as far as Kobah. Those in Jerusalem and all the hill country also came, for they were told what had happened in the camp of the enemy. The men in Gilead and in Galilee outflanked them with great slaughter, even beyond Damascus and its borders. The rest of the people of Bethulia fell upon the Syrians' camp and plundered it, acquiring great riches. And the Israelites, when they returned from the slaughter, took possession of what remained, even the villages and towns in the hill country, and in the plain got a great amount of booty, since there was a vast quantity of it. Then the high priest Joachim and the elders of the Israelites who lived in Jerusalem came to witness the good things that the Lord God had done for Israel, and to see Judith and to wish her well. All, when they met her, they all blessed her with one accord and said to her, "You are the glory of Jerusalem. You are the great boast of Israel. You are the great pride of our nation. You have done all this with your own hand. You have done great good to Israel, and God is well pleased with it. May the Almighty Lord bless you forever." And all the people said, Amen. All the people's plunder came for 30 days. They gave Judith the tent of Holofernes and all his silver, dinnerware, his beds, his bowls, and all his furniture. She took them and loaded her mules and hitched up for carts and piled the things on them. All the women of Israel gathered to see her and blessed her, and some of them performed a dance in her honor. She took ivy-wreathed wands in her hands and distributed them to the women who were with her, and she and those who were with her crowned themselves with olive wreaths. She went before all the people in the dance, leading all the women, while all the men of Israel followed, bearing their arms and bearing garlands and singing hymns. Judith began this thanksgiving before all Israel, and all the people loudly sang this song of praise. Judith 16. And Judith said, "Begin a song to my God with tambourines. Sing to my Lord with cymbals. Raise to him a new psalm. Exalt him and call upon his name. For the Lord is a God who crushes woes. He sets up his camp among his people. He delivered me from the hands of my pursuers. The Assyrians came down from the mountains of the north. He came with myriads of his warriors. Their numbers blocked up the wadis, and their cavalry covered the hills. He boasted that he would burn up my territory and kill my young men with the sword, and dash my infants to the ground, and seize my children as booty, and take my virgins as spoil. But the Lord Almighty has foiled them by the hand of a woman, for their mighty one did not fall by the hands of the young men, nor did the sons of Titans strike him down, nor did all giants set upon him. But Judith, daughter of Marai, with the beauty of her countenance, undid him, for she put away her widow's clothing to exalt the oppressed in Israel. She anointed her face with perfume. She fastened her hair with a tiara, and put on a linen gown to beguile him. Her sandal ravished his eyes. Her beauty captivated his mind, and the sword his neck. The Persians trembled at her boldness. The Medes were daunted at her daring. Then my oppressed people shouted, my weak people cried out, and the enemy trembled. They lifted up their voices, and the enemy were turned back. Sons of slave girls pierced them through, and wounded them like the children of fugitives. They perished before the army of the Lord. I will sing to my God a new song. O Lord, you are great and glorious, wonderful in strength, invincible. Let all your creatures serve you, for you spoke and they were made. You sent forth your spirit, and it formed them. There is none that can resist your voice, for the mountains shall be shaken to their foundation with the waters before your glance. The rocks shall melt like wax. But to those who fear you, you show mercy, for every sacrifice as a fragrant offering is a small thing, and the fat of all whole burnt offering to you is a very little thing. But whoever fears the Lord is great forever. Woe to the nation that rise up against my people. The Lord Almighty will take vengeance on them in the day of judgment. He will send fire and worms into their flesh. They shall weep in pain forever. When they arrived at Jerusalem, they worshipped God. As soon as the people were purified, they offered their burnt offering, their freewill offering, and their gifts. Judith also dedicated to God all the possession of Holofernes, which the people had given her, and the canopy that she had taken for herself from his bedchamber, she gave as a votive offering. For 3 months the people continued feasting in Jerusalem before the sanctuary, and Judith remained with them. After this they all returned home to their own inheritances. Judith went to Bethulia and remained on her estate. For the rest of her life she was honored throughout the whole country. Many desired to marry her, but she gave herself to no man all the days of her life. After her husband Manasseh Manasseh died and was gathered to his people. She became more and more famous and grew old in her husband's house. Reaching the age of 105, she set her maid free. She died in Bethulia, and they buried her in the cave of her husband Manasseh, and the house of Israel mourned her for 7 days. Before she died, she distributed her property to all those who were next of her kin, to her husband Manasseh, and to her own nearest kindred. No one ever again spread terror among the Israelites during the lifetime of Judith or for a long time after her death.